So I'm Laura. I run Shaka Surf, which is a women's surf school based in Pembrokeshire. And I run that with my business partner, Holly, who sadly couldn't be here today. And I really wish she could have, because she's definitely the interesting one of the two of us, the fun one. And Holly actually started the surf school back in June of last year, 2022. So we're just over a year old, actually. And she ran her first session that summer. And the school just kind of took off from there. We kind of realized loads of women were really wanting to try surfing and maybe had been like watching surfing from the outside and not feeling like they could kind of participate. And then Holly kind of, I guess she recognized that. I mean, I didn't know there was a huge need for it, but she recognized that and thought, oh, maybe if I can, make a women's surf group, then more women will kind of like feel welcome and come in and get involved. So I just kind of started helping her out with the lessons, and then we started running it from there because we worked really well together.
I was going to say, because you haven't got a Welsh accent.
No.
So
obviously you're Canadian. Obviously, clearly Canadian.
This is the conversation we had before, but yeah, so clearly.
What is it, Scottish?
I wish, guys. I really wish I could say I'm Canadian, but no, unfortunately I am American, from California originally.
So did you start surfing in California?
I did, yeah. I learned when I was 8. So,
and whereabouts did you learn?
So San Francisco.
Yeah.
I'm from San Francisco area. But where I learned to surf was Santa Cruz. Have you guys been? Have you spent any time over there?
I've been in the surf in San Diego, as it's pronounced.
San Diego.
But I wasn't a surfer at the time. I was just there with the army before I went to Afghan.
Oh, right, okay.
And we just typically got absolutely smashed one night. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, thought we'd just go jump in the sea, not aware that it was full of tiger sharks.
So was that the first time you ever went surfing? Was 2 in the morning in
yeah, I guess so. I wasn't really surfing, but it was just being stupid. So I've been there. It was a great experience.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, so Santa Cruz is further north than San Diego. It's like kind of like the start of Central California.
Yeah.
I guess there's like a debate over whether it's Central or Northern California. But it's a really different scene than Wales. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's kind of close to Mavericks, like an hour away from Mavericks, but totally different from San Diego area. San Francisco is like really, it's cold. That's one thing people don't realize. They're like, oh, isn't it so cold in Wales compared to California? And I'm like, actually, you would be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, because you're getting up towards like Oregon then and stuff like that.
It's like freezing up there. Yeah. But I guess you said you weren't surfing at the time that you were there.
No.
But the culture is really different, like from California to
that surprises me.
To Wales. Does it?
No.
Yeah, I
mean, more tense here, I imagine.
Yeah, no, definitely the opposite. Yeah, I mean, the culture as a whole obviously is different in America to the UK, but the surf culture particularly, I found it really interesting surfing here and then comparing it to back home, because it's really like, Santa Cruz is really heavily localized. You get a lot of like old guys who have like grown up surfing there and they've like, been there for their whole lives, and they kind of feel like they like own the breaks, and then you kind of try and break into that, and it's like it's kind of protective, I guess is the word. Like, it's the only place I've been welcomed to a surf break. I was surfing at Steamer Lane, which is like a notoriously localized, like really, really good wave, but really localized. And I was paddling out, and some old guy paddled alongside me, and he was like, I forget what he said. It was something like, oh, you look like you can paddle and you kind of know what you're doing, so welcome to Steamer Lane. And I was like, thank you. I was like, I've never been somewhere where someone felt like they needed to welcome you.
Steamer Lane was notorious for like gang fights and everything in the water, wasn't it? I think there was a documentary on it, how it's like people were like literally surfing with like knives and weapons in the 80s, 70s, 80s, something like
totally.
that.
Yeah.
Wow. Proper localism at the next level.
Yeah, which is exactly what you don't find in Wales. At least, I mean, I'm sure there are places that are crowded and there are places that are like localized, but at least in Pembrokeshire where we live, it seems to me to be like a really, really friendly place. But yeah, people do bring knives out, and I haven't heard of knife fights in the water, but they cut people's leashes. So then when they lose their board, it goes into the rocks or
So
or
I
whatever.
presume the only person in the lineup in Pembrokeshire that's bringing localism is you.
Yeah. I'm
you
there
welcome
patrolling
people?
the brakes.
Oh, you look like you can paddle.
Yeah. Well, you would feel like a real idiot being trying to be localized with an American accent in the water.
Well, it's funny. I mean, actually, I'm not going to use this example because no, I'm not. We'll just move on because
I'm dying to know
I can
now.
maybe generally speak about it, but it's about people in their spots where they are. "Oh, this is my spot," and all that crap that goes with it. But suddenly, I'm hearing about them traveling around the world, and they're getting annoyed because people are giving them grief because they're not local. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. You're the most local bell end of everybody. And you're getting annoyed because people are doing the exact same thing you do elsewhere. And I see these examples all the time. I've seen it this week as well.
What, surfing in Wales? You've since you guys have been
I've
here,
just
you've had
there's examples. I'm not going to name anything.
Right,
Name
okay.
them.
No, well,
Name
Pete
and
for
shame.
one. But it's sad to see it. And so that transition. Well, actually, where would you prefer to surf if you had a choice now of going down there or back to San Diego?
That's a very good question.
It means Wales vagina.
What?
San Diego. It means Wales vagina.
In what?
I've not seen it.
Damn
You get it.
I wish
What
I...
the hell are you on about?
You don't get that reference.
No, what are you on about?
Doesn't matter. San Diego. That's its literal translation.
That's I wish I had come out with that fact. That's a good little bit of local knowledge. Yeah.
See?
What film
Also
is that
completely false information as well.
Not a film, it's documentary.
Spreading
Anyway.
misinformation. Which would I prefer? It's a really good... that's a really good question, Mitch.
3-2. That's 3-2.
That's one good question for you.
Oh, yeah.
What you do have in California is sun, which is a real novelty here.
Yeah.
And you have consistency. So you can surf there most days of the year and there's something surfable. Whereas here, you get a lot of days where it's just too blown out and windy, or the weather's crap and you can't motivate yourself to go out. So I don't know. I don't think I'd have a preference necessarily, but the one thing I really love about surfing in Pembrokeshire is you have a lot of days where it's you and just 5 of your mates in the water, and everyone out there, and you paddle out and it's hey, how's it going? It's a really friendly atmosphere and familiar faces, which you can get in California as well, but I think it's just really crowded. There's just a lot of people.
I can't even imagine. I mean, hearing people speak about it, I can't quite in my head picture how crowded them sort of spots actually are compared to
well, you see the kook slam videos and stuff, don't you, of people 10 people on a wave, and it's not like that everywhere. Obviously, it's you can get away from the crowds if you want to, but you just gotta search around a little bit. And
so how long how old were you when you came to Wales, or how long ago did you come to Wales?
I came when I was 17 for the first time. So
for the surf.
Actually, yes, I was for the surf and the weather. That's why I'm going to go to Wales. No, it's actually, it's kind of a crazy story. So I basically left home when I was 17 and just started traveling. And the first place I went was Barcelona because I had some friends who were living out there. So I went and stayed with them for a month. And because I was 17, I had never taken public transport or really traveled at all on my own. Yeah. So I was in Barcelona and I was trying to go on a day trip to this village that's just south of there called, I think it's called Sitges. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I was in the Barcelona train station and I could not figure out how to use the ticket kiosk. It wasn't letting me buy a ticket to this town. So I was well, I'm here. I'm going to just pick another place. And I just scrolled through the list of different destinations and picked a town called Tarragona, just on a whim. So I got on the train, made it to Tarragona. I was just exploring, walking along a seaside path, and I came across this couple in a van who obviously was traveling around and living in their van. And I was that is so cool. I've always wanted to do that. Always wanted to live in a van, ambitious young person that I am. So I was I should go and talk to them. And I did. I walked up and I was hola. And they were we don't speak Spanish. We're we speak English. And it turns out that they're from this tiny little village in Pembrokeshire called St. Ishmael's. Yeah. So there is a reason for the story. And we talked for maybe half hour, 45 minutes, not very long at all. And they were basically well, we run this bed and breakfast in Wales, and if you ever want to come and stay with us for a summer, you can come and like work for us and stay at our bed and breakfast. Cool. So I was just kind of like at a phase of life where I could say yes to that sort of thing. So the next summer I did come out and I stayed with them. And then while I was there for the summer, I ended up meeting my now husband who lived out there. And and we just kind of traveled back and forth then for like the past 5 years. And it's only been in the last year and a half that I've actually settled here permanently.
Okay.
So totally on a whim that I ended up in Wales.
That's how these things tend to go though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just chance.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. And how did you find that transition? Like you coming to Wales from, San Diego. Yeah, good. We're gonna have to watch some movies. No, I'm not going to tell you because it's going to kill them.
I know you've said it before as well, and I know you've told me what it's from, and I just cannot remember.
See, this is what I'm working with.
Who are you?
And how was that coming from? You're coming from such a big, bustling, busy place to, I guess, what is quite rural and quiet.
It is really rural and quiet. I mean, Pembrokeshire especially, like you feel like you're kind of out in the sticks a little bit, which I like actually. But I think, the transition was pretty gradual because I was like coming here for the summers and then I would like leave all winter and like go traveling, or I'd go back to California or whatever. So I used to say like I'd come to Wales for like the rain, like for the summer. Yeah, I'd get my like winter in and then I would go out and travel somewhere like warm and with good waves and stuff. So it was like, it was 5 years of like back and forth. So by the time I moved here, I kind of like had a community and things here, which made the transition a lot easier. But people ask me all the time, like, why would you choose Wales over California? And sometimes I'm like this past summer, I was like, good question. I'm wondering that myself, but
it's been awful.
It's been the worst summer. Yeah. It really has. Yeah. But I don't know. I think everyone has this idea of what California is like. It's this like beautiful, sunny, like magical place, and it's lovely. But when you're choosing a place to live, like you think about like healthcare and like cost of education and
how much you think it costs to get an ambulance in like America. And it's like, don't you just ring an ambulance like you do? It costs you like $4,500 just to call an ambulance out.
Does it?
Did you not see it?
No.
It was like, how much do you think? Right, so if you need an inhaler for asthma, how much do you think an inhaler costs you?
£100.
$300.
What?
It's ridiculous.
It's
like
wild.
That.
Yeah. So that's like alone is like a good enough reason really to live here.
Yeah.
But like
having a baby's like 10 grand.
Do you know what? This is crazy actually. When you go and have a baby, you get like the breakdown of the costs of everything that associated with your visit to the hospital. Yeah. And obviously if you have health insurance, it's paid for. But there's something called skin-to-skin contact, which is basically like holding your child. You have to pay extra to hold your child for the nurse.
And can you say no to that one?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm actually, just put it in the basket. I'll carry it home. I don't need to touch it.
That's mental. Problem is, again, wild. This is the other podcast, but you have a healthcare system that relies on everyone being ill to fund the healthcare system, as opposed to having a healthcare system which relies on everyone being healthy to function and save money.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's for the
this would be wild
healthcare podcast.
If this just turned into a full rant about the American
something
healthcare
semi-sensible. I don't like it.
You didn't get good questions.
It wasn't a question; it was a statement.
No, it wasn't even a good statement. So, how did then you end up living in Wales to starting up a surf school and a women's surf school?
Yeah, so Holly, like I said, Holly started it in June, and we met actually on our surf instructor course together, and then did a season of lifeguarding together. That was like my first job when I moved out to the UK. So we had only known each other, I think like a couple months maybe, when we decided to like become business partners and like do this thing together. But
strong.
Yeah, maybe it was stupid, I don't know, but it's gone really well, and maybe that's luck. But like we just work really well together, and we've been really lucky in that sense. But
so you're like the Mitch of the partnership, where you just turned up and
just turn up halfway through. Yeah, exactly.
All the hard work's done.
Holly's been trying to get rid of me for 18 months now. No.
And for clarity as well, I don't know what the reason was, but Holly's not here because probably she's surfing.
Yeah, I don't know what she'd be surfing today, to be fair, but no, she's on holiday sadly. Otherwise, she'd have been. She'd have loved to make it. Yeah, but yeah. So really, I think she started the school to meet other women who surf, because she realized like there's just really not a strong community of female surfers around. She was like really sick of being the only woman in the water all the time, which I think if you talk to female surfers is like a very, very common experience. You like just kind of get used to being the only woman. And so when she started it, I think she thought it would be more like intermediate kind of level and advanced and like people going out and surfing together. And it turned out that the women who were joining in on the sessions, which were just like a weekly 1.5 hour surf session, were like all beginner surfers or people who have like never tried it, or like maybe their boyfriend tried to teach them how to surf and then just like left them in the whitewater and went out surfing, like had a bad experience. It's like a whole range, but basically they were just like, oh, I never would have like felt comfortable enough to do this if there wasn't like a group designed specifically for women. Okay. And I have to say, like, because I grew up surfing since I was 8, I didn't even know that that was like something that a lot of women were feeling. I just didn't really think that hard about like, oh, why aren't there more women in the water? But since starting the school, you've realized that there's just like all kinds of, you know, barriers really that kind of keep women out.
Okay.
Do you find, because we were talking about earlier, and we said earlier, and we'll get into it more, and it's good to have someone with a different opinion or a different view and know different stuff about it, because just two blokes talking about it is, we can give our opinions of going, well, I never had that. I never had a school of people to start me with. I went out with a couple of friends and we're like, should we try surfing or just get in the water and do it, which sounds very similar to what you did which is more normal in the States. It was just like, go out and do it.
Friends taught me,
your friend go out with your friends and do it. So why do you think there's that difference in the UK to the States, where like it's just natural, you just go and do it and do it with your friends, to over here there's like barriers? Why have you seen why that is? Or?
Oh, interesting. So like comparing America kind of like to the UK.
Yeah, because like, as you said, like when you got here, you were like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I just went out with my friends and surfed. Like, why aren't you doing the same thing? Yeah,
I mean, I have to say it's the same in America. So like lineups in California are like still super male dominated. So I think those same barriers like do exist in the States and here.
Okay.
But I mean, I think I'm kind of like hesitant to chalk it all up to gender, because I think that there are things that keep people out of the surfing community, like in general, like whether you're a man or a woman. And there's like the obvious like physical barriers of like, well, who gets to live by the coast? Like, you know, wealthy people, that's for one thing. And then who has like access to surf lessons? Again, probably like wealthy people. And then there's like the psychological barriers, which are the ones that I find really interesting. So like, I think because of the nature of surfing and like the fact that waves are like scarce and like kind of like a limited resource, you could almost say, I think that surfers are quite protective of their waves and of their lineups and of their culture. And so it does kind of come across as like not being the most welcoming sport, just like in general, to anyone. Yeah. And I guess maybe I felt that a little bit in California, but when you're 8 years old, you're just like doing your thing and you're not really paying that close attention. I
think that what you just said there, that one part may have been the main difference, like starting young. Yeah, because it's difficult to start anything new as an adult, isn't it? It's terrifying. Yeah. Like,
if I learned now.
Yeah, I went to do something the other day that I've never done before, and went to like a new club, and I was like, luckily I knew someone there, because otherwise it would have been like that, you know, at the back. Hello. Like, it is totally terrifying. And I think the thing where it gets confusing is that a lot of men feel like they're being attacked, not attacked, like blamed for everything. And it's like, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to explain without sounding like a complete dick about it. But it's like, personally, it's like there's loads of women's clubs, and like from conversations that I've had before, if you're running a women's only club, I can see the advantage for the start of it. But I think as it moves forward, it should be mixed, because when you finally go out into the water on your own with people, it's going to be mixed out there anyway. Yeah. So, like, what's your thought process on, like, I just feel it's really difficult to explain.
It's hard to, I guess it's hard as a man to try and even be involved in a conversation, because you don't want to sound sexist, but you want to share your opinion and obviously your experience as well. And I think what Pete's saying is that, in any group, obviously we should be trying to welcome everyone, but clearly that's not how the world works. So we have to have workarounds and ways to make it inclusive for people. And I guess in a roundabout way, what I'm badly saying is that you're kind of setting up a group which is exclusive and excluding what would be men if we're using the gender example, to allow women to have a comfortable, safe to surf, but then go surf in the lineups, as you know, that are probably male dominated. So
totally.
At the point, you kind of, I guess, at least in my head, I think, where's the crossover? When does it become a mixed thing? Yeah. So it doesn't become a problem. It doesn't have to become a topic of even, this isn't a thing anymore, which is obviously the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just the only thing stopping you learning to surf is you.
Yeah.
There's no one else, no other barriers in the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, Pete, Mitch, good question, both of you.
Well, I'm still one up.
And actually, this is something I think about so much, is how do you get women to not only feel comfortable surfing with other women, but just to feel comfortable surfing in general. And I think, well, first of all, so we were talking about there's all these barriers to anyone getting into surfing. Yeah. And then I think where it becomes specific to women is there's just this one extra layer, which is that it's a male dominated sport. So then it's already quite exclusive. Sometimes it comes across as being kind of intimidating. And then you add on the fact that you don't really see anyone who looks like you in the lineup. So it maybe just doesn't even cross your mind that it could be for you. I mean, I think that's the experience a lot of women have. But yeah, someone who talks really eloquently about this is Sally McGee, who runs Yonder. I don't know if you've had her on the show.
To her before,
yeah. So she's been doing this for a lot longer than we have. She runs Yonder, which is a women's surf school up in the Northeast. And one of the really important, one of the things that they really focus on is integration. So you're not only teaching women to surf with women, you're then integrating them into the wider surfing community. Yeah. And so we're very inspired by her in that way, because it's something we find really important too. So what we kind of try and do, a lot of surf schools will take people out on kind of the tourist, have your one-off surfing experience kind of session. Yeah. And the focus is get them to their feet, get them to stand up, then they've surfed, they can tick it off their bucket list or whatever. Yeah. And I think what we're trying to do is really equip women with knowledge and confidence so that they can go out and surf independently. So if that is a real focus for us, we're we are going to teach you about etiquette. We are going to teach you about how to handle your board so that you're not a hazard in the surf. We are going to teach you about how do you read a surf forecast and where the local spots are. And then also just how to conduct yourself in the surf, because a lot of women say when they paddle out into the lineup, they're really intimidated because no one's talking to each other. And I'm always people are just focused. There is some hostility, but a lot of it is perceived hostility. And really people are just focusing on the surf. They're thinking about themselves. They're not even thinking about you. Yeah. So if you paddle out and you kind of go, hey, how's it going? Talk to people and smile and be friendly. I think that goes a long way.
So that's a really good point, actually. Perceived focus, is that what you said?
Perceived hostility.
Yeah, because that's right. And the thing is as well is that
I say
it's the same.
And people don't answer me. I think that's just, they're
I've never actually thought about it like that, but that's the same feeling for everyone, because ultimately those spots I'll paddle out as a man. It's not even spots, most spots. And if it's a super busy day, I feel intimidated by the lineup. It's not because I know that's a guy or that's a girl or whatever. It's just because it's busy. There's a lot of people there. I'm on an expensive bit of equipment. I don't want to damage it. I don't want to ruin someone else's wave, and I want to have the best time myself. But you've built that up.
Primeval sort of deep in you, you're going into a different pack already. And
totally.
If that's you're feeling after if it's built in from
So, if you were able to remove what are all the self-induced or mental pressures, what do you think we would be left with? What are the real problems that you think are stopping women specifically going out in the lineups?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, one of the things that I feel
4-1 3-1.
That was a good question, but I don't want to just hand them out like candy, I want you guys to earn them. No, that is a good question. I think one of the things that would remove the psychological barrier and one of the things that we're trying to do, like with our podcast, the Ocean Women podcast, and like our Instagram, is like having women represented in surf culture and in surf media, because if you see something that looks like you feel like it might be something that's for you. So that's like one thing I think would be important. I guess, I mean, this maybe sounds kind of self-serving because I run a surf school, but if you think about it, like, how do people get into surfing? Like, either you're lucky enough to have a friend or family member who surfs, who's going to then show you the ropes, or you are lucky enough to have a friend or family member who can pay for surf lessons for you, which are really, really expensive at most schools. Or you're going to go out and you're going to wing it and you're going to try it on your own and probably be a hazard to other people and, you know, take a really long time to learn because it's like trial and error and feel like you're in the way. And like, that is really intimidating. So either we like only allow people to surf who have friends who surf, or we like change the structure of surf schools so that you're actually educating people and empowering them to then like go out and surf on their own. Yeah. Which I think is kind of like the role that we feel like we're taking on with Shaka Surf, is like, it's more of like the knowledge as well as just like, here's how you do your pop-up and here's how you like stand on a board. It's like, also like, here's how you choose the route that you take to paddle out back. And like, here's, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Route.
route. the route you take to paddle out back. Yeah, exactly.
I get that. That's all like, the thing is, like I said, like going to a club when you're old is intimidating anyway. And I like going.
Yeah, totally.
I can't think of anything that's reversed off the top of my head, but it'd be like it's going to sound really sexist and like the way I say it, but if I was going to like a cheerleading group, which you'd presume was all females, and I was a man and going, I want to be a cheerleader, and I'd be like, but I don't want to go into the group of women and just go, hey, I want to be a cheerleader. I know that's not a good example, but I can't think of anything of like...
Well, but Pete, you can be a cheerleader.
Yes, Pete, you can be a cheerleader.
You can be a cheerleader.
Or if you're lucky enough, like me, just have a parent who didn't want you there, so they just pay for you to hire a bodyboard when you were a kid and go and sit in the pub for 2 hours.
The answer is neglect, guys. We just need to be neglecting our children.
Neglect as a child, or...
it's funny you say that. I actually always use the similar example, which I also feel is imperfect. But like, if you guys really wanted to get into ballet, like that's the one I always use. It's like, you might feel more comfortable in a group of blokes who do ballet. And actually, I have a friend who teaches yoga, and she said one of her most popular classes is a men's yoga class. And none of those men would be going to her normal classes because they don't want to be like that one weird guy in the back of a group of women.
Every male that I know that goes to yoga goes with their partner, and they're like, we're going together to yoga. I don't
lot
know
of women, it's the same with surfing. They're like, I'll go with my boyfriend.
Also interesting, just for maybe a point of balance here, and maybe I'm getting close to the line, I don't know.
Go on.
But you know, I can totally
space,
well, in this room it is, not on these ears people listening through. You know, I totally understand, I totally get it, like how it can be intimidating paddling out for women, like when it's just full of men, and you're just one woman paddling out yourself. But you know how intimidating it is for a guy surrounded by loads of women. Like, I don't know if you've ever been out and there's like
of course it goes both ways,
a hen
doesn't it?
party out and you're just one dude. It's the most terrifying experience ever. Like,
maybe that's the answer. Paddle out in groups.
Paddle out in groups, not safety in numbers.
Well, this is kind of part of what we do actually, is like, you're going with a whole group of women and it's a super supportive environment. And like, I have to say, if you have ever surfed with a group of women compared to being the only woman in a lineup, like, it's a completely different experience. Like, people are cheering each other on. There's like so much like energy. There's party waves. Like, no one's getting aggy at anyone. No one is like, you know, putting anyone down. Not that I see that all the time with men, but like, it is a really, really supportive environment, which for getting into any sport or any activity is like really important, you know, to have people you feel like are like encouraging you. But another thing I've actually noticed is, it's just popped into my head. A lot of women are really uncomfortable in wetsuits. That's another thing. So, I mean, the body image thing is massive.
Because I know. Well, we had one message just the other day asking about wetsuits for females. She said she's shorter, big-chested, and finds it difficult to find a wetsuit to fit her. and another one that's, I think she described herself as a potato or something like that, and said she couldn't find a wetsuit that fits her. And I said, have you tried these? And she said, went through all the brands, and she was like, I've tried all the brands. And I said, well, the only thing I can think of for you is somewhere like, I think Chris said it was like Figure. I think
Figure Creative, they do custom suits.
I think they do custom. I don't know. There might be other places as well, but they do custom suits.
Yeah, custom suits.
But you shouldn't have to go to that level of effort. I didn't know that was a problem, in fairness. But you shouldn't have to go, I need to get something custom made, which should be readily available off the shelf.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, but at the same time, if you're looking at big brands who are always going to
tailor to the mass.
Yeah.
And then you look at the percentage of, like, as we've said a few times, I think it's like 70-30 worldwide men to women. So if they go, there's only 30% of that, and only 2% of that 30% is this size, why are we going to make it and put it out everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, the sizing thing is definitely a problem, like a barrier, again, as you say. But I think, men's bodies vary as well. And I think the real...
What did I call us? Someone called us the new Morecambe and Wise the other day. I said it was more like the more food and unwise.
I won't comment on who's who.
It's clearly obvious. I'm the unwise.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that really kind of gets me worked up about the wetsuit brands is, like, some of them have been very, very slow to get, like, the full range of, like, winter suits for women, and that one really gets me, like,
I've
even more
so
than
actually.
size.
When
you're, like, trying to buy a winter wetsuit and there's a brand you really like and they don't even have a hooded 6 mil, you're like, that really is frustrating, because you're just thinking, what, do women not surf in the winter? Like, what kind of there's, like, a huge assumption there.
I came across that actually, and it was an eye-opening moment. I ordered a load of wetsuits for a surf school, and there was premium suits in that order for the team riders, if we want to call them that. And I want to say who, but the premium version of that suit, the most flex, stretch, dry and quickest, all that kind of stuff. I was shocked to discover they didn't do a women's version of that. So that is unreal.
It's so frustrating. I mean, and it's, like you mentioned, catering to the masses, which, like, I can understand, but then at a certain point, like, a business does have to have the values of, like, we want this to be, accessible to everyone, and that should kind of, like, trump that's the demand, or whatever.
With somewhere like that, custom wetsuits, if they're making them, like, go with them, because the big companies obviously don't care enough to like, it's one of those things. If the big companies don't care enough to support you at the start of it, when women's surfing becomes massive and it's all leveled out and even, and then they go, oh, we've got all women's sizes,
we care now.
You just go, do you know what? Fuck you. You didn't care about it in the beginning. You can get lost now.
Totally. I totally agree. But I think there are some, I mean, going back to the size thing, I think there are some brands that do a little bit better. So I actually am not speaking from experience. This is just what friends have told me. And I'm not, like, affiliated with Srface or anything like that. But Srface does have, like, a really wide range of, like, you can get a 10 short, or like a, like, so different, like, length. Because I've got tiny little limbs, and, like, I need custom suits that have, like, shorter limbs.
Okay.
And, like,
if you want to get
Surface
wetsuit, you could use the discount code UK Surf Show 23.
Lined you up for that one.
You lined us straight up. Thanks for that.
I was actually paid to say that. No.
So I know their sizing's brilliant, and I found the wetsuits as well. So I normally get I think it's a something tall, 3X. two times tall, whatever,
4X.
5.
Yeah.
Will you fuck off? And just so I always find the length of them, and I've had them before when I just find, like, they're a bit short in the arms or the legs, and the Srface ones seem to fit really. The Srface ones, not that there's too much, but they seem like they, when you first put them on, they feel like really tight Srface suits, and then after a couple of times they feel like they've stretched out into your body a bit better.
Kind of like mold to your body. And
that's what I like and need in my life.
Good.
But
like a hug in the surf.
It's rare for me to get a hug,
Do you know, it was actually something I wanted to. This is again the other podcast. You know what that is?
It's my violin.
World's smallest violin. I wanted to ask you about, I think we spoke about this the other day with someone. I should treat you or any other female in the lineup exactly as I would any other dude. Fair to say?
Completely false. Mitch.
No?
No.
Damn.
I should get special treatment. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, of course.
Should be
yeah.
exactly the same,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And where was I surfing? I can't remember where I was surfing. It doesn't really matter. But I will give, not that I snake people and take waves or anything at all. I'm not good enough to be doing that. If I was good enough, I would.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But I will purposely give more room or give up less waves, even if I've got priority for females than I will for dudes. I think it's that more subconscious, I need to, but actually I should just be like, fuck off. I've got the shoulder as I would.
I mean, I totally see where you're coming from, but I would say if it's coming from a place of like fear of like, oh, I don't want, to look like an asshole or whatever, then get rid of that kind of mentality. But if you're coming from a place of like, oh, this is the only woman in the water and, she might feel a little bit outnumbered and, maybe I'll just hang back so she can get this chance. Like, I'm not going to say everyone needs to treat women differently, but I don't think there's anything like really terribly wrong with that. Like when there's kids in the water, like little groms, I always give them waves because I'm just like, I just, this is awesome that you're out here surfing. I just want to, go for it. You want to kind of like cheer them on. So I don't think anyone should feel obligated to do that. But I wouldn't say like, that's like a terrible mindset to have.
To people. I'm really good like that.
You always give waves to people.
No, I am. No, I'm more than happy to. I don't want to smash my board. I don't want anyone to get injured either. So if somebody's going and I'm sort of like 50-50 or maybe I'm a little bit deep, I don't know, I'll let them go. But as long as they catch it, I'm giving maybe 2 attempts. And then it's like, no, that's it. I've gave way enough times, but I don't mind. I'm there to enjoy it, same as everyone else. But at the same time,
I know. I know what you mean about the special treatment thing because I was surfing the wave recently, and it was the expert turns, and some guy who you queue up and you're like all rubbing shoulders and you kind of like try and have an awkward chat with the person next to you, and some guy was like, "Oh, your turns are really good," and I was like. The undertone there was like for a girl, like you could just feel that he wouldn't have just said that to some bloke who was sat there next to him. Like I did kind of know he was like, I wasn't expecting much from you, but there you go. Do you know what I mean? So I do, and you get that like for a girl thing a lot for sure. Okay. Like so, I mean that it doesn't feel great. I think when
how do you deal with that? Or do you just kind of move on?
How do you? Yeah, you got to just like laugh and crack on. I mean, this is another thing we're like constantly telling the women is like, you got to get really good at just like laughing at yourself if you want to get good at surfing, because it's just like, you're going to look like an idiot for a long time. And if you don't have a sense of humor about it, you're just not going to go very far. You've got to just take it all in your stride.
In life and every level of life. But, I'd be responding with, well, your turns aren't very good for a man. Then you could use that over and over.
I think
I might start using that one.
I think my friend Zoe said as well, she gets in the water and she's had it multiple times without asking. Blokes telling her what she should be doing.
Like unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited advice of what she should be doing. I mean, I wouldn't give any advice to anybody of what they should be doing, man or woman anyway. If they didn't ask for it, I'd just be like, you do you, I'll do me. Look at me, I'm struggling enough to surf myself, let alone tell anybody else what they should be doing.
But if the topic's on cheerleading, Pete's your man.
I'm all there. I'm all in. Ballet would have been better because I could do a pirouette or something like that, and I'd be well away.
Talking about the surf school, how big is your sort of clientele? Seems a bit clinical. Your members?
Yeah. We have about 200 women in our WhatsApp group. So if that kind of gives you a little bit of a rough idea.
Ping, ping, ping. Oh my God.
Not quite. I know. I think some people have left because of all the messaging, because it is a lot, but we kind of try and use it just for like lesson updates. And like people, the thing that's really good about it actually is people will be like, oh, I'm thinking about buying this board, like what do you guys think? And like it's a way to ask for advice, and people seem to feel really comfortable doing that, which is exactly what we want, because back to that like whole knowledge building thing. Bless you. Let it out.
I didn't sneeze on this beautiful log.
Yeah, I think a lot of women have found it helpful to have a place to like ask questions, basically. Okay. But yeah, so we run a weekly women's surf club. So that's just like an after work kind of lesson, and then when the clocks go back, it's one every weekend. And we usually get like fully booked for us is 16, and that's with 2 instructors. We don't really like to have many more than that. And we get close to that most weeks, really. Okay. And then we do like different kind of like workshops on the weekends. We'll have like what we call surf academies, which is like 2 full days of like really, for people who want to get like really in depth, learn a lot in a short period of time. We'll do that. And then like different events and the podcast and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, so
I was just going to ask you a question about what you were saying then. So do you find as the women go through the groups of like learning and they start to get better, that all of that falls away and they're just happy to go out surfing then? Or is it, what I mean by that, is it an initial thing that people have the fear, and then once they get into it, they're like, actually it's not as bad as I thought? Or do you find it stays within a group?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one, because tricky question.
I said that's what I
was only because like surfing is one of those things where you never stop learning. So you can get someone. I mean,
so like when they get to the point where they're standing up and catching green waves. Do you see that disappear a lot more and quicker, or is it still maintain the same?
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. So like what I was going to say is you get someone past the beginner stage and then they're comfortable in the whitewater maybe on their own. But then if they want to then learn how to go out back, then you're kind of almost like at square one, if you get me, because again, that's like another intimidating step to take. So we have had a lot of women who have like been with us for like the full year that we've been running, year and a half, and they've gone through the whole, they're like nailing the pop-up, they've mastered the whitewater, and now they're like, oh, I really want to like try going out back. And it's all the same barriers again. And then you paddle out with them and you start pushing them into green waves, and you like kind of welcome them out into the lineup, maybe like introduce them to your, male friends who are like also out in the lineup, and kind of like try and get them to feel like they're part of the community. And then, so that's like green waves. Then say you want to start surfing like slightly more challenging waves, which to be honest, the people we've been teaching haven't quite got to that level yet, but I'm hoping like, give it a year or two. And instead of just like pushing people into their first green waves, we'll be like taking them out to like beaches where there's like a more critical takeoff, or like there's a more like designated like taking off point, and lineups that, because there are definite beaches where people feel more comfortable than others. Like I can think of a few in Pembrokeshire where people are like, oh, I never surf there because the like lineup really intimidates me. So I guess to answer your question, it's like there's always something else to kind of be afraid of, if you get me. And it's helpful to have someone who can like guide you through that whole process.
And you just push them, like make them drop in on the best surfer in the lineup just to condition them.
That's a good, actually, that's a really good
if you announce your arrival,
we are here. Like just put someone in the worst position they can be in, and then once they survive it, then they won't be afraid of it anymore. Maybe we should try that, like exposure therapy kind of thing.
Do you ever find yourself as a surf instructor giving unsolicited advice to people in the water?
No, I mean, I don't think so.
I can see it on your face.
Male or female?
No, I actually really actively try to avoid that. But you brought up that point about unsolicited advice, and it got me thinking that I don't know if you've ever gone to like a climbing wall. This is like the example that I always use to kind of like compare surf culture to other sports. But if you like go bouldering, for example, and you're like you'll find people just like standing there staring at the wall, and then a really experienced climber will come over, and like 2 people will like work together to solve, they call it a problem, I guess. And there's definitely an element of like, oh, you look like you have no clue what you're doing. Like, let me show you, which we totally don't have in surfing. And I almost wonder if maybe there should be more of that, of like, oh, you look like you're struggling, rather than being like, get the hell out of here. Maybe unsolicited advice, like maybe it isn't the worst thing in the world, but then you do get into tricky territory because it's really easy to be like, oh, it's because I'm a woman, or
I think the terminology might be part of the problem there. Unsolicited advice, it makes it sound like people are telling you what you should be doing, whereas actually in a lot of instances it's probably with the absolute best intentions,
right? And there's a way to go about it, isn't there? That you don't seem like you're like protecting your waves from other people, but you're like, oh, here, like, come, if you sit over here, you know, you're a little bit too far out on the shoulder. Why don't you come sit over here and catch, you know, this is where the peak is. Come sit over here. I don't think, I would like to see a change in surf culture where we do more of that, but I don't know how to go about it without it seeming like...
And you've also got that problem, you know, if someone gives you advice and you've just seen them surf and you think you're better than them.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Because there's a big thing in surfing about being better than people, isn't there? And I'm not really one for being better than people, because the way I see it, most people are better than me at surfing. So it's really like, it's just something that I enjoy doing. But there's, I know, especially with like younger ones and I'd say shortboarders, that there's a lot of how they do their turns and stuff like that. You know, there is a lot of it.
Oh yeah, like how much spray,
and all that sort of stuff. So like, if you see someone do something that you think I can do better than that, and then the next minute they're saying, "Oh, you want to sit over there?" You're like, who are you?
I have to make a comparison as well, because you mentioned climbing walls and surfing. And I can't say any more than this, but I recently surfed a climbing wall.
I would love more information.
I cannot talk about it publicly, but that happened, and you'll see soon.
You can't talk about it publicly because it's about to be released.
Possibly.
Ah, okay.
Very cool.
I'm quite intrigued.
It might be out by the time this comes
out. It's not. Well, it could be, yeah.
You've piqued my interest.
I'm not doing it.
I can tell you.
And then, moving it back, do you find some of the women have got more comfortable to be able to go out and surf themselves just through, the sort of time and experiences you guys are giving them?
Yeah, totally. Like the best thing, it's funny when your job, like the goal of your job is to get people to like not need you anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like the best thing
is
when...
the best business model.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like marriage, isn't it? And that the goal of marriage is get them to not need you anymore.
Is that how it's been with you two?
Pete's venting.
But yeah, like the best thing in the world is when you paddle out and someone that you've taught is out there surfing on their own. Like that is a really good feeling. So you do kind of like hope for that.
Do you think you guys would scale up?
Oh yeah, do you know what? We talk about this all the time. Like I think for us, if we wanted to do this full time, because we both have like careers like that we do on alongside, like it's not our full time thing.
I like the way you nearly said careers on the side of this, so this isn't on the side of the career.
I was trying to work out which is which. I'd say this is probably on the side at the moment, but I don't know. I think in order to do it full time, we would have to rearrange the way that we do things to the point where it wouldn't be in alignment with our values anymore. And what I mean by that is like you do see surf schools like heavily catering to tourists, taking out huge groups, like really high turnover, not taking the time to like really educate their students and then charging loads. And like one of the things that we really pride ourselves with is like this is accessible like from a financial point of view as well. And so I don't know whether we actually are that interested in scaling up, because really we feel like the best way to serve our community is kind of like to keep it at a grassroots level. And so I don't know, I mean, maybe in the future, but we would never like kind of sell our souls, I guess, if you get me, in order to do that. But then at the same time, I guess you're kind of like, oh, if you had more capacity, you could teach more women, and there's that whole thing. But one thing we've been really enjoying is actually like the podcast as well, and that sort of side of things, because it's that
was going to be my next question.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, so how did that then go from the surf school into becoming a podcast?
Yeah, like why does a surf school start a podcast? Like what? I know what you mean. Yeah.
No, it's just like what was the transition where you went from surf school, women's surf school, actually you're going to start a women's podcast? Was it a natural transition, or was it just something you one day went, I want to do that? Yeah,
well, I guess a bit of both. We were talking about barriers, like psychological barriers. And one of the things that we noticed is like women kind of don't think that surfing is for them. And one of the ways that we thought maybe you could combat them is like giving female surfers who are like really inspirational and doing really cool things, like some kind of platform to share their stories, so that other women see like, oh, this is for you. Because like, what's your ratio for guests of like men to women? Like, would you say it is like predominantly men?
I worked this out not long ago. So it was more or less 70-30 when I worked it out. So it's more or less in standing with what the actual statistics are. But I think now we've definitely had more male guests recently.
Yeah.
Not through.
It's not by design. No,
I wouldn't
asking
have
women
assumed.
to come on a lot of the time. I've 2 women that I've asked that I can think of off the top of my head. I've seen the message and not even replied, and a few more that I've asked have not even responded or seen the message. It's just like when it's not seen or anything. It's just lying there in the message box.
Well, so a lot of our guests are based on just what the listeners ask for. So we come somewhere where we don't know. I know you can pick him up to Scotland, you don't know anyone. Yeah. And I'm just going off of, obviously, people I know, and then going, right, who should we have on? Who's like a local legend that we wouldn't know about? Yeah. And I guess it's kind of based into what the listeners are asking for. And if it happens to be, a man or a woman, it's not by design, it's just because that's who people said. So it's quite a...
And I think you were from... So obviously we'd had Yvette and Sally on before, and then I spoke to you, and you were doing the thing at the Wave, and I came up the Wave and spoke to you there. So it's that
happened.
way. Yeah.
What's your ratio?
It's my fault I'm here. So I mean, that's like totally understandable that's kind of like naturally how it happens. I think what we've like been very intentional about is like choosing our guests not based on surfing skill alone. Like,
agreed.
So that's something that I think is really important. So like we've had like, which is not to say that they're not skilled surfers, but that's not the first thing that we look at like by any means when we're choosing who we want to have on the show. Like we're looking at like where is mainstream surf culture like not covering, and like there's so many cool stories to uncover if you just look a little bit harder. Absolutely, and just dig around a little bit. So like we had Sarah and Dixon from Surfability, and I know you guys talked to Ben from Surfability, but it was really cool. Like she is not like the face of Surfability by any means, but like she was so integral to like so many of the projects that they have going on, and like she had so many stories to tell and so many insights. And we've spoken to, there's a woman who like sailed around not the whole world but part of the world with her partner, and she's a surfer and a marine biologist, and she's just like a local woman who like she was really cool to talk to. And even though she would kind of like call her partner like the captain of the ship, so like you would assume like, oh, let's go talk to the captain, whatever. Lou had so many great stories to tell. Like we're trying to kind of like almost find like the untold stories, I guess, of
I couldn't agree more. That's what we think as well, because while it's amazing to be able to, I guess, have the pool to get big names, people have heard the stories before for the most part.
Yeah,
and also,
exactly.
It's kind of same old, but when it's people like ordinary people doing amazing things, like it's so relatable really to people. Cool. They're like, oh my God, that's such a cool thing that they're doing, or a cool story you wouldn't have heard before. Yeah.
And how cool is it when it's like a passion project? Like you can really feel people's love for it versus when it's like their full-time job and they're like the, I don't know, head of Firewire or something, and like
there's a massive difference, isn't it? And I think it's infectious when people are genuinely passionate about what they're talking about, as opposed to I'm telling you because it's my job to tell you.
How annoying is it when you have someone on and then you go to release the episode and realise there's another podcast with them on being released at exactly the same time? Have you had that yet?
Well, it depends when you guys release your Adam Williams episode. Because we did a little bit of like a shaper series, like for Welsh shapers, and he's one of those. Right. So, but we'll work it out. Yeah,
right. I didn't even know that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, no, I haven't really had that yet. I mean,
wait till you have that. It's brilliant. Yeah. We did one with someone. We recorded one with someone, and they said to us, "Oh yeah, well, I've got another one coming out this week." As we were about to release it, and we went, right, we'll put that one back then. Which
may sound harsh, but it's a bit like, I don't know, if you watch the NFL on ITV, right? Yeah. You wouldn't then go watch it on Sky Sports because you've seen it. Right,
and actually,
a lot of the questions they might not be posed the same, but the subject matter is going to be really similar. Yeah. So that's why we, personally just try and avoid. So we just leave it a little bit of time.
Yeah. Although I will say, like, with podcasts, it's cool. Like, I mean, we're going to hopefully release this episode on both of our podcasts. I think that's really cool because, like, you don't listen to one podcast and then say I have complete loyalty to this one podcast. I'm never going to listen to the other one. Oh, yeah, but like, And then again, like I would assume I actually asked really different questions than you guys, because like I was really interested in his sister series, because he has like a series of boards shaped specifically for women. So we like went really nitty gritty into like the specifics of like shaping boards for women, which like again is why I think it is kind of important to have not only female guests but female hosts as well, and like female voices in surf culture and just any industry like as a whole, because you do kind of like bring a different perspective. And actually something that I have thought about is like, should the podcast be only interviewing female guests, or should it be just like a general surfing podcast that kind of like happens to be hosted by women? Because I do sometimes worry that like, you know, we these women's groups, which there's been like 4 that have popped up in Wales just in the past year of like women's surf groups. I do kind of worry sometimes that we like are isolating ourselves, and it goes back to that whole thing about integration that we were talking about. And like we get men asking us all the time, you know, like you mentioned the event we held at the Wave, that was like a live podcast event. We've held like speaking events.
I thought that was a women's only event.
This is exactly the problem that we face.
Oh,
like,
so it's association sort of
And
assumption.
we really struggle with that. Like, it's really important to us that men engage with us and like come to our events and come and support these women and like.
But stay out the lineup.
No, bitch, you missed the point.
I thought that's what you said verbatim.
That's going to be the one soundbite that's taken out of this episode.
Back to the studio.
No, everyone belongs in the lineup. Yeah, no, we got so many messages though before that event with people asking, can men come? And I totally understand where that question's coming from, because if a man asks, can I come to your women's only surf session? I'd say, well, like only if you kind of like identify as a woman, then you're very welcome to come. So there is like, some of the things we do are designed specifically for women, but then our events are like, they are for everyone. And it's really hard. We've really struggled to get the word out about that. But like, if you think about it, like everyone should be interested in the stories that these women are sharing. Like just because they're women, it's not only interesting to other women. So I don't know exactly where we've gone wrong there, but I
was just going to say, I was just thinking of that. If you're running a women's only club, and then you want men to come to the events, how do you do it? Because that's
good
like
question.
Saying, like this is a men's only club, but when we've got an event on, we want the women to come to it. It's like that's the other thing. I don't see a lot of men only clubs in the. I don't know of any. I know one
Surf
Sanctuary, because they do a men's mental health club, which they run once a week. But I'm unaware of any other club in the UK that is men only.
Do you mean for surfing or
for surfing? Not for anything in general. I'm sure there is.
I mean, I have like 2 kind of responses to that. One is like every day is men's surf club. Like when you go out in the lineup, you know, like you talk to people who've been surfing their whole lives, and like it's very much like an old boys club going back like years and years and years. Like we have a Pembrokeshire Surf Club in Pembrokeshire, which is run by a group of guys who are like such lovely guys, but they grew up surfing together like years and years ago. And like it's just, they're just a bunch of mates, like and you know, I don't know if you're like new to surfing and you are a woman, if you would feel like, I don't know, you wouldn't really see yourself in that club. But then we have Pembrokeshire Women's Surf Society, which has come up, and now those clubs have merged, and I think you really see like a more equal mix of people at the events now that has happened.
But equally, in 15-20 years time, that group of Pembrokeshire Women's Surf Club, they'll be the old sweats in the lineup, causing that exact same problem.
I mean, I guess the hope really is that all the women's groups will become obsolete one day, you know, and you won't need them anymore. And like, it's just at this moment in time, like a corrective to like a really male dominated lineup. But then what you said about men's clubs, like, you know, men faced unique challenges for sure that women don't face. Like, you know, you just brought up a mental health group, and like, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with groups that are designed for men, you know, if they're focusing on an issue that is like specific to men or unique to them, or, you know, it's like women find it really easy to build community. Like, this is generalizing now, but like, we're very chatty, we're very like open, and I think some men kind of like struggle to maybe to like express their emotions and be vulnerable. And if there's a men group that's like everyone except for you, Pete, you know, if you had a group that was kind of like for that purpose, then fair play. Like it's just like, I think people have to realize that we're not creating these women's groups because we don't want to be around men. We're creating the women's groups because it's just like one group that we feel is like important to just overcome one specific problem, which is that surfing's really male dominated.
I think that's a really great point, actually.
I think the reason, we have questions about it as well is
I love that you do.
It's because I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with women in the lineup, and but I've never looked at that from the woman's side of it, of looking like, oh, it's intimidating. I think myself, paddling out into when I've been surfing, the times I've been on my own and I paddle out and I don't know anyone out there, it's intimidating that way as well. So I can only imagine the similarities there.
Yeah.
But I think the reason we've got so many questions is because, as we've talked about it before, it makes no difference if you're a bloke or a woman in the lineup. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are. If you're surfing, that's it. That's all you see.
Totally.
I just see someone else that's going to take my wave off me. It doesn't matter. What's under the wetsuit hood? I'm just they're going to take my wave.
And assholes are assholes.
Exactly.
And nice people are nice people, and you do get them everywhere. But I do think it's like, I just want to say, because I feel like it's important, that there aren't many women who like just assume that all surfing men are like sexist pigs. It's like, that is not. There's that assumption.
I think it comes across like that sometimes as well. I do like what you were saying, and I do think that comes across like exactly what you said. That I don't know if you feel it like it's not attacked. I don't know what the word is. Like
judged.
Yeah, it might be judged,
because it's kind of like how much. You're quite free-flowing in what you want to say, and I think we're both sat here like I'm trying to prod my way through a minefield and not stumble and not have an honest...
Does it feel really uncomfortable for you guys to talk about it?
It can be... This isn't uncomfortable, but it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally.
Just because you don't want to offend, but equally, if you've got an opinion, you want to share it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky.
I feel like the only way that anyone can like have an honest conversation about it is just by asking questions. And like, I know there are people who will get upset if you kind of say the wrong thing, but Holly and I are like very intentional about not being that way and just kind of like...
It's like, because this comes from a place of just purely questions of what we're thinking.
Yeah, no, it's great.
We came in with no like agenda, and I know there'll be someone listening to this who will be raging at it because either we haven't asked something or we've asked you something that we shouldn't have asked you, which is is going to happen, but...
Go easy on them, guys.
You only asked one good question.
I forgot. I haven't been tallying, but there's been a few good questions.
Don't worry. You'll tell me all about it all the way out.
So I got a question for you guys. I'm wondering if you have like a favorite conversation that you've recorded, or like one that's
this one definitely
100% right now.
Me too.
Assuming we're press record. A favorite conversation.
I never did that with Ben Skinner and not press record.
Oh no! Did you have to just reenact the whole conversation then?
Pretty much.
And it's funny because I could see it on. Like, we kind of sat like this, I guess, and I could see him looking at whatever this contraption is, and I knew something was up. And he sort of went like that to stop Ben, but he let him finish the whole sentence before going, "I'm a dick. I'm not recording." He was sound.
I haven't done that quite yet.
I think my favourite ones were everything before Mitch joined. That was really good fun then.
Yeah. I've got to say, guys, the quality has really declined since Mitch joining. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm literally just going to play that bit later. But no, it's I think personally was speaking to people like from North Shore film, because like I grew up watching that and speaking to like some of the actors from that.
Who did you speak to? I haven't listened to those ones yet. Sorry,
we've had Turtle, John Philbin, who was also in Point Break as well.
Yeah.
Rick Kane and Chandler. And Chandler was the best one because Gregory Harrison, I should say his name. I just still refer to them as characters.
As the characters,
the characters they played. And Gregory Harrison at the end of it goes, "This is for all your listeners." And he just went, "Go ahead, go shred."
Just losing your mind.
Yeah.
So that was filmed in the UK, wasn't it? Or is that the one I'm thinking?
North Shore was the Hawaiian one. It was.
Oh, I'm thinking.
It's when the guy from Arizona goes. It's like 80. It's before you were even born.
I haven't actually watched it, but every time my dad watches a surfing movie, he calls me and he's like, "Laura, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch Blue Juice or whatever." And I never watch them, but I get them all confused.
The producer of that as well, producer of Blue Juice, came on as well.
Oh, nice. See, I should go back and watch them.
See, mine's a bit different. I've not really thought about this before, but
If you say your favourite one was the one where you came on and were interviewed, that's what you were going to say, wasn't it? It was.
Of course it wasn't. But now that you mention it.
That'd be awesome. I would respect that.
My favourite one was actually having mates on, people that you really know.
Really? So you don't find that weird, like interviewing your friends? It's not like...
No.
Yeah. Well, it's just a chat, isn't it? This is quite laid back.
It's just a chat. It's just holding a microphone. But to be able to, like, Alex Mason, like Turbo Lizard, and Distinctly Average and Water Surf Photographer in Yuki, we had him on, and Army Surfing, and my good mate Swanee, just Sebastian, having proper mates on, and helping to tell their story, because I think for individuals it can be hard to talk about yourself, but then suddenly you've got somebody in the room that knows that person really well, and you can ask
good questions.
Yeah,
as
you
well,
can direct more, I think, better.
Yeah.
So for me, just having my mates on, because then it doesn't feel like, well, it's not that this is work, but it doesn't feel, it just feels like just having a chat. Yeah, it's not forced and it's fresh. I think that's for me anyway.
I like also the episodes where you get, like, I've had a couple of bits today and I'm like, I never thought of it like that, like where you hear something and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Or someone will tell you about something about surfing and something else will click and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense.
No, it's nice to hear other perspectives, because I'm not one that, like, if we argue about something and you've clearly won the argument, like, in the moment I will not admit I'm wrong, but I guarantee I will use that argument, and I'll use your argument to the best of my memory. Like, I'll happily... If I'm wrong, I'm like, no, I'm wrong, I'm fine. I don't have a problem with admitting I'm wrong and seeing another light, because you can only know what you know at a time, can't you? So it's nice to hear other perspectives and other people's opinions. It's like
on the whole point, really, isn't
this.
It?
Yeah, exactly. And it would be boring if we all agreed.
What's the Welsh perspective then? I'm curious what your take's been since being
lovely.
in Wales.
It's funny being here, because I've normally only been in Wales for work before when I was in the army. So to come here and surf and just do surfing things is such a nice transition. To realise,
do you know what he hasn't said at all? Honestly, what a difference a day makes.
No, but it does, because we surfed the first day. I've surfed on Sunday. It was a howling onshore mess.
Every time.
8 hours later in the morning, it was glass.
And then the next day, what did you start saying the next day? Yeah. What a difference a day. And then the next day, what a difference a day makes.
It's true, though. It's like the swell doesn't change. It's like just somebody changes a button or a setting somewhere at a time at night when no one can see.
Do you think it's more like that here than in England? Or I guess Scotland?
Nah,
it's all the...
Equally howling for me at home.
Shit everywhere. Yeah. It's just, the summer and the weather's been shit everywhere this year, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's just, what about you, though? What's on your one, your favourite interview you've done on the podcast?
That's a really good...
Go on, say it.
No.
Because it was your question.
So I was going to say, I can't say that about my own one.
So 1-1.
I got to think about that. I mean, I don't want to... We haven't done loads, so I'm conscious of not wanting to, like, leave anyone out, because I really loved them all. But I would say one of my...
Who did you hate the most, then?
I am not going to answer that. No, I definitely don't have an answer to that question. But I'd say we had one with Lou Ludington, who's the woman who sailed partway around the world. And she was just like a very good storyteller. So I think that is like my favorite, when people like can tell a story and like paint a really good picture of like a one moment or like one experience that they've had. And it kind of like brings you into it. And she's obviously has loads of stories, because she lived on a boat for 3 years, I think it was, or something like that. And I love people who can. And
have you got, is it a favourite memory from like either an interview or something to do with the show that stands out?
A favourite memory from the show? I mean, I have to say all the live things that we've done have been really, really cool. So, it's nice to have a conversation like one-to-one with someone, like we're in like a room like alone right now, but that's like great. But then when you have an audience there, it's like a whole different experience. And so we had the live podcast at the Wave in Bristol, and it was really cool because it was quite a small venue, like quite a small audience, and people got to ask their own questions at the end. And that was really cool because they were super, super engaged. And, you don't often see the faces of your listeners, like you've probably met a few of them, but like, you
normally
don't really
we
know.
find Paz looking through the window outside our respective homes.
That's your audience.
Just Paz, I saw you.
Different kind of audience, yeah. So basically like, you put people talk about social media and how great it is because it builds these communities, and it's true, but it really, in my mind, like it kind of only counts or means something if you then meet up in person. So like we've built this online community through our podcast, but I hate messaging, and I hate like honestly Instagram and like social media. I'm like, really,
I hate it.
It's you're the same. Yeah. I need a Mitch in my life to handle that side of things.
Once you got a Mitch, you can't get it.
But just basically being able to actually meet people, connect face to face, like that to me feels a lot more meaningful than just like comments on an Instagram post or whatever, whatever it is.
I liked because obviously you're going to ask me the same question back.
Tell me, Mitch.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. Yeah,
that's a good question.
Ben Gravy, when we had Ben Gravy on, I came up with this game 100% myself, and I didn't steal it off BBC Radio 1. And it was did you hear this?
No, I'm just enjoying Pete's eye rolls.
Literally, it's my facial expressions throughout you talking. It's just like.
So, have you heard this before, Pete?
He was there when we was there. Yeah. So this game, it was, on Instagram, YouTube stuff, people can comment, leave a rubbish comment, can comment whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, also, and I'm sure you won't know this, being prim and proper American girl, on porn videos, you get the same comments sections at the bottom, so people can leave comments.
Not always the same comments.
Not always the same comment. You leave what you want.
I'd love to try this with my mum. It's a bit different.
The game,
the
game, I went to loads of comments from Ben Gravy's YouTube videos and loads of comments from adult websites, which was a horrendous experience having to find comments.
Do you have to guess which is which?
You had to guess.
That's brilliant.
But the best thing about it was the name. So the name of the feature was the comments Ben Gravy or Men Gravy. And it went down amazing. It was like a 50-50 when you get them right or wrong. But it was awesome.
That was your favourite moment, wasn't it?
It was
I think
so
it might have been
funny.
your favourite moment of your life, actually.
It was so funny.
That is so great.
And then, what we normally ask people as well is a couple of questions. Your best wave that you can remember and your worst wipeout.
Or worst experience.
Oh, God. Okay. Best wave that I can remember.
Or best session.
Yeah, I'm trying to... I mean, sometimes the best sessions are the ones that are like memorable because something went wrong, if you know what I mean. But I can remember one session in Morocco where I was there for about a month, and it was like a really big day, kind of on the borderline where I was like, ooh, is this going to be all right for me at the level I'm at? And I was like, I'm just going to go give it a go. So paddled out, was just absolutely bricking it the whole time. I was terrified. And then I was like, the only way I'm going to get back in is turning around and paddling towards the beach and either just taking them on the head or catching one in. So I was like, I've just got to commit. And I feel like it's just the pressure of like needing to commit.
Yeah.
You actually performed quite well. So I caught this like quite a nice wave. I mean, for me, like it felt quite big. Rode it all the way in. And that's memorable for sure. Worst wipeout. I mean... I've had loads every time I go out. Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
me, Monday,
definitely
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. What do you mean, this week or ever? Yeah, definitely a lot of like over the falls, face plants. The best is when like your mate is on the inside watching you and you know that you've really stacked it. But I can definitely think of a time, this is like definitely not an answer to your question, I'm going to tell the story anyway. I can think of like the time I've been like scared in the ocean. We were this was on a recent trip to California with me and my partner, and we were surfing somewhere. It was actually really empty, really nice waves, and I think it was us and like two other people out in a part of California that is like notoriously sharky.
Okay.
And Tristan was like, I feel like it's really sharky right now. And I was like, you never say that because you're going to summon the sharks. That's the rule of thumb. You call them like men in gray suits, or you call them anything but shark. You don't say the word shark. And then I caught a wave and went in. And I was like, it's kind of, the tides kind of come in. It's not that great. I'm not going to paddle back out. So I was stood on the beach watching, and I just see Tristan like absolutely legging it back in, paddling as fast as he can, like pointing at the beach, like don't come back out. And the first thing that popped into my mind is like, oh, he's he's definitely seen a shark. And he came out and he was like shaking. He was so scared and so like pumped on adrenaline. And a shark had like swum right past him. So I was like, I've grown up my whole life surfing California, never seen a shark before in my life. And then Tristan's out there for like 3 weeks and sees one. And then the next day, we were in this really, really remote part of the coastline of California. And we weren't even planning on surfing, but we had our boards with us. And we went on this hike and we went past a trail that said, like, it led down to the beach, but it said trail closed. There's an impasse. And we were like, we'll just try it anyway. And if it gets to an impasse, we'll turn around. So we walk all the way down. Turns out you had to like scale part of a cliff with a rope that someone had tied at the top to like get down onto the beach. So that's why it was impassable. And we made it all the way down and we look across the beach and there's just this like perfect right hand point break, just like reeling in, no one out. Like we would have never known that it was there, never come across it. And we were like, we need to go back and get our boards. But like the day before we had just seen the shark. And so we were in this like dream situation. You know, like you dream of that on a surf trip, don't you? Like empty, perfect wave. And we were too chicken to even paddle out and surf it because we had seen the shark the day before.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And we didn't even.
Yeah. In 98, I'd still be sat on the toilet now. Terrified of things moving. But yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us.
If people want to find you guys, come and get involved, where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, the best place is probably Instagram. So we are at Shaka Surf _women, WOMEN. And yeah, just send us a message. For kind of one of us is always on there checking them. So
not you though, because you love it so much.
Yeah, not me. Address Holly, please, if you message us now. Either of us, yeah, we're on there. And if you are in Pembrokeshire, like we're always keen to just meet up and surf with people. So next time you guys come to Wales, you'll have to make the drive all the way out to Pems.
Perfect. Love to.
And we're going to have a look now and see if we can go surfing.
Yes.
Yeah, with Holly, where she actually is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it's been really good.
Well, thanks for that, Laura.
Yeah, that was brilliant. It's a shame we didn't get to speak to both of them, but you know, there's always next time. There'll be another trip to Wales, no doubt.
It was a shame we didn't get to speak to both of them, but also it's almost as if we've not done this for a while, and there's a bit of a gap between both of us talking. I've not just synced it up badly. We've got a slightly different setup. We've got new sort of system of recording, thanks to, I don't even know the program we used to use to try to just steal money off people. Yeah. Zencaster used to be free. Now they want all your money, so we don't use it. So yeah, there's a bit of a new system happening here. But anyway, that was. I enjoyed that. It was actually really fun chatting with Laura.
Yeah.
Like you said, shame the whole team wasn't there. But I think you probably saw it or heard it throughout, depending on how you're watching this. Like, we kind of found ourselves at time stumbling through questions which are actually very straightforward. And if, it was just me and you chatting about them, it would just be a free-flowing conversation.
Yeah.
But like I said at the start, I feel like there's a little bit of seems like there's a bit of a war against men in the world at the minute, and we can't do right for doing wrong. And you should be able to engage, even if your opinion or my opinion is completely wrong, or left or right of field, whatever. You should be able to share it without feeling judged by sharing it. And this is a sort of topic where I think it's easier just to not get involved,
Yeah, it definitely is. I was just going to let you keep talking then and see how much of a hole you could have dug yourself. But that's exactly what I mean. It's like like you feel like you can't say anything, or you can't put even if it's not an opinion, if it's a question, you feel like if you're going to ask the question, someone's going to give you shit for it, and you can't move forwards if you don't have the conversations and the questions. So that's the only way to do it. And I mean, we tried to be as like open as possible and as natural and normal as we normally are. We didn't go with any preloaded questions or anything like that. We just, like, as usual, wing it, faked it till we make it, see where the conversation goes.
Way too much prep for that.
Yeah. So yeah, but no, it was really good. And the surf afterwards, I mean, she is absolutely phenomenal surf. Like the waves. Look, from up the top, I can't even remember where we were. Where were we? Do you remember, Mitch?
We were surfing with Dragon's Den or Game of Thrones or something. It was actually quite a big day.
It was messy,
a mess,
wasn't it?
And it was relentless as well. It was a pretty strong rip, but it was just the three of us. Like, we had the spot to ourselves, which was great.
Yeah.
And she was just on. I mean, I didn't have a lot of waves, so I had a few.
Yeah.
And every time I was looking, she was either coming back from one or she was on one. Like,
yeah, but
she
was that good that she was not only surfing in, she turned the board and surfed down the back of the wave and surfed half the way back out as well.
Oh yeah, completely forgot about that. Yeah, she did.
I was like, what the fuck's going on? I can't even get on a wave here, let alone... I was knackered after carrying my board all the way down there.
What was quite a nice insight as well was so she grew up surfing in San Diego, if you remember, which means Whale's vagina.
Yes.
And
yes, wanker man. Yes.
She didn't really recognise the sort of barrier a lot of women faced in surfing in the UK, but at the same time, it would have been the same there.
Yeah.
It was just that she grew up with it, and I guess if you grew up surfing, it's a little bit different, as opposed to probably like so many of us in the UK. We get into it later in life.
Yeah.
So you've already got a ton of barriers there that you kind of self-induced barriers before you realise people don't want me there. But ultimately, actually, surfers don't want anyone there. It's not a case they don't want men, they don't want women, just don't want any other surfers ruining their spot. I think it's quite that kind of sport, we're quite selfish.
Yeah, I saw a post the other day about something saying on Instagram, what's ruined surfing? And I was thinking, like, that mindset's ruined surfing straight away. Just, if everyone can just let go of that shit and just, like, go out and enjoy themselves, be a much better place, a much happier place, and a much, freer place in a way.
No, you're absolutely right. If people moaning about the spots are getting too busy, well, maybe, but it is what it is. So if we can, if you can even start to change your mindset of rather than just having a go at somebody for not knowing. Laura made a good example of it in the episode about, I think it was rock climbing or bouldering. It was climbing actually. And she's saying, like, if somebody stands there just staring at a wall, like, it looks like they don't know what they're doing, and it's quite common for someone to just go ask.
Yeah.
And if you were to apply that same similar principle in surfing, where if you keep seeing someone screw up or getting people's way or whatever, rather than just having a go at them, just go, educate them.
Yeah.
And then the second time, well, if they keep doing it, fair enough. Well, maybe not fair enough. I'm not advocating go kick their whatever in, but
kick your teeth in.
Education is key.
What is
if it's a safer, if the break is safer and everyone's abiding by the rules, then there would be less problems than it being an absolute free for all. But then that's hard to rule anyway in a beach break where it's just all over the shop, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing's a fucking minefield, isn't it? Everything you want to say, everything you want to do, everything. There's just a minefield everywhere now. That's it. End of the podcast. I'm shutting up. Bye.
So, what's been happening in your world, Peter?
I don't even want to talk about that, mate. So, moving on, what's been happening in your world?
I don't want to talk about that, mate. So, moving on, what's been happening? Well, first 6 days of the year, starting from the first, of course. Every day, mate. Head high plus. I mean, it was some huge days, actually.
Was this when you were too ill to record a podcast, but you were all right to go surfing every day, yeah?
There's two things in life where it doesn't matter how ill I am, it will not stop me doing it. And surfing's one of them. The other one, you can imagine, I'll leave you to guess or ponder. But yeah, it was well overhead every day. And to be fair, I don't think I've ever surfed more than 5 days in a row in Scotland ever. I'm sure in Yuki when I'd done an army surf trip, maybe the first 2 week one, I swear I had a period of 13 days where we surfed every day, and admittedly not every day was amazing, but we got in and caught waves every day. So to get even close to that, like 6 days, like double, triple sessions, but on my doorstep as well, right outside. And in fact, Emily and our partner Chris came up from NE Surf, who have been on the show before, or Emily has, which was epic to surf with them. They were filming for Gull Wetsuits, which was really cool. I made a couple of cameos in that, which is mega. It was really cool to have them up in the little, what was it, Bedford Rascal.
You should change your Instagram name to Mitch, the Scottish cameo surfer, like just making cameos on people in Instagram and stuff.
I know, it's annoying because really I want to be in the content, but the problem is I film all these massive build-ups myself to the event of surfing, but then at the point I'm going to go surf, I can't then control the controller for the camera or the drone, so it's like huge build-up, nothing.
That's it, isn't it? No, I mean, we'll talk about more of what's going on with what we've been doing and stuff on the Buy Me Coffee. I was just noticing on the corner of your screen there, nice little bit of product placement there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, nice to get sent any Red Bull, did you?
Not at all. The show definitely didn't get sent a load of Red Bull. A ton of Red Bull, which is nowhere near you. But
yeah, I know. What's that about? Why did it get sent to your house?
Because they contacted me. It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's really nice. It's nice to kind of says a lot about the show, doesn't it? Even though we've not been recording forever, or we've not been doing intros and outros. But like we say, it's been a tricky period, shall we say?
Yes.
And but we're getting there.
Yeah. And then thanks.
Do you know what else?
Go on.
I mean, it's not necessarily surf related, but it kind of is.
Oh, here we go. What happened in Asda or Morrison's? Go on.
What happened? What?
It's just going to be Asda or Morrison's in it or something. Go on.
No, nothing. I forgot about that. I found out a stat after that Asda thing. Actually, I can't remember if I said it, but it was like I quizzed somebody about why is the bags the most protected thing in this store, and it told me how much it cost for bags that had been stolen.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. I fitted a dash cam. I went and got a dash cam for the van because somebody had ripped my bumper off the van, and I've been after a dash cam for ages. And this dash cam kept up on my feet. Wolfbox was the brand of the company.
Yeah.
And it's like, motion sensor, starts recording, front camera, rear camera, 4K display. Anyway, I fitted it a couple of weeks ago. I am genuinely buzzing. And I took the footage, because you can set up time lapses and record whenever you want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's that good. I'll be able to use it for surf edits.
Yeah.
When I'm like, if we're, I don't know, driving to wherever, there's always a nice sunset, sunrise, whatever else. Or even the beach, the spots that when you can park up at the beach. I'm like, that's actually brilliant. So I reached back out to the company because I posted about it, and actually I'd done like not an intro, what do you call it, a tutorial video on how to fit it. I thought I'd try and get my YouTube up. And my neighbour, who's got a big Alsatian, and I'll get you, as I was filming the last bit, so I was filming the dash cam, filming in front, he just happened to walk in front with his dog, and his dog just laid a massive jobby right in front. So that was like the closer, that was the teaser. But I reached out to the company and said, look, people DM me loads, like, what is that? I've been after one for ages. So the company sent me a discount code, so Scottish Surfer. I'm not sure what it'll get you, but it was pretty solid because I looked at it myself.
Yeah.
I actually hit one for the car.
Yeah,
but
nice.
buzzing with it. So for listeners, Scottish Surfer on Wolfbox website, amazing bit of kit. I'm well happy.
Yeah. And don't forget to head over to our website, and there is dry robe banners and Surface banners, and click on them. They'll send you through, and you will get a discount off Surface and Dry Robe's affiliate program now as well. So go ahead and check them out as well. So that's pretty much it for today's show.
Thanks for listening.
Feels good to be back. And
it's good to be back.
We'll catch some of you on the Buy Me Coffee, which there's more and more of you joining, so thank you very much for that. And maybe start doing some shout outs and stuff on here for the Buy Me Coffee fans soon on the main show. And also, we're coming up to episode 100 soon, so any of you listening out there, any questions you want, or tell us your favourite moments of the show over the past 100 episodes, or 90 something that it is now, and that'll be featured in the 100th episode.
For shizzle.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.